You're tuned into Jerod Said It.
Don't you forget it!
Bring it laughs, real talk, a little bit of chaos.
Here's your host,
Hey y'all, by popular demand, I had a ton of inbox, not even confessionals, but inbox messages that people wanted to know more about their hosts. So I have a solo episode for you today, and we're going to get into my story, my truth, my becoming. I am in my studio, my podcast studio, but since it's just me, we're going to be a little bit more informal, okay? So my mic is hooked up. She's looking good, but I can bring the camera over here. Sorry, it's a little wobbly. Question number 1. What was little Jerod like growing up? So little Jerod was very, very feminine. He had an older sister that he looked up to. She did modeling and pageants and all the things. So from a very early age, I was right on her coattail. I always called her Pussy. She was my Pussy. Um, so weird. But she was my Pussy, and I followed her around, and I wanted to be all up in her business and all up in her girlfriend's business. And yeah, so I was, I was very feminine. I mean, I walked in her heels. I balanced books on my head if that's what she was doing. I was wrapping myself in saran wrap because she was wrapping herself in saran wrap to stay skinny. I mean, like, I was girly, you know? That's just who I was. I don't know if y'all can hear me because my mic's kind of over there, but let me move it over here. Um, and I did do a lot of, I mean, like I played basketball for a short time. I played ball until I was probably, baseball until I was like 9 or 10, um, because those were things that my dad expected me to do, you know, like hunt and fish and all the things. Um, you know, I remember one time when I was a kid and my mom and dad were building a house, and it was out on the ridge, and we were driving one day, and there was a deer that ran across the road, and my dad jumps out of the truck with a gun, and he's gonna go kill this deer. And so I get on the car phone, y'all. Car phone. That's how old I am, okay? A bag phone at that. And I call my mom, and I'm screaming hysterical that dad is killing this deer, dad is killing this deer, just because I was just like, what the fuck? This is not the life for me. Um, one of the questions was, when did you first realize you were different? I always knew that I was different. I always lied about it. I always hid it. Um, always, always, always. I was never authentically me. Um, and I started doing that from a very, very early age. People would ask, I would say, no, of course not. You know, I'm not gay or I'm not girly. Um, that was just a way that I hid that because in the time that I grew up, obviously it was not um acceptable, I guess you would say, to be different in that moment. What messages did you receive about masculinity and identity? So oftentimes I would be yelled at. Um, I would be called a faggot. I would be called, um, you know, you're playing baseball because that's what boys do, or you're going to play basketball and you're going to be good at it. You know, there were always things like that being made, going fishing or going sitting in the woods to hunt for deer or going duck hunting with an uncle that I had. Like those were just things that I was made to do because that's what boys do, you know. Who were your safe spaces growing up? So when I was growing up, I always felt very, very at home with my Aunt Shelley. Um, she was always a mother and a nurturer, and being around like my small group of cousins that I had, Sierra, Shauna, and Dylan, we all grew up very close to the same age, and that always felt like home to me. So a lot of my core memories and safe spaces were growing up with them. Um, as I got a little bit older, you know, I had other relatives that I would lean on, and things like that. But as far as feeling like safe and like I could act however I wanted to, I always felt that way at my Aunt Shelley's house. She didn't care if I played with the baby dolls with Sierra and Shauna. Like it was fine. If I didn't, it was totally fine. And now that I look back on that, I'm like, this was my safe space. So my coming out journey, when did you know you were ready to come out? So I hid who I was forever, obviously decades. And finally there was a switch that flipped in my previous marriage where I have two children from. Um, she had undergone some weight loss surgery and had started um, doing drugs and things that I did not want them to be around, and I did not want my children to be around. And I just knew that there was no better time than right then to say, "Hey, this is who I am, and I gotta go because I'm not gonna be here for this. I'm not. I'm not putting my kids through this. I'm not going to let them watch this." My daughter was very young, like 2 at the time. My son was, what's 5, 7. He was 5, 7 at the time, and so that was the time I knew, like, hey, I'm bouncing. I'm not going to be around for this. This is who I am. Um, the part that kept me silent for so long with all of that was the this fear of like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get to see my kids, or what are people going to think? What are people at my job going to think? What are people that I'm around every day going to think? What's the babysitter going to think? You know, what is my family going to think? I was so scared about what everybody was going to think about me when I came out, and especially because I was doing it later in life and I had children. So like, they're going to be like, "What are you doing that for? Why are you doing this to your kids?" Um, who did you tell first, and how did it go? So obviously was my spouse I had to tell first, but that went over like a lead balloon. She did really nasty things. After that, she sent like a dozen rainbow roses to my office one day when she knew I wasn't going to be there. That said "Happy Coming Out Day." So obviously my staff saw the card on, the card on the flowers. She sent cards to all of the females in my life, like my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, one of my aunts. I think probably even sent a message to my sister, and she was like, "Thanks for raising a faggot. It's been fun." Or, I mean, it was just wild. She did some wild things. So that was really turbulent for a little while. But the first person that I actually told was my cousin Shauna. She was the first person that I told, and I went to her house and we sat on her back porch and we both cried. Um, and she was so proud of me because she had been telling me for a couple of years. She'd been giving me some signs and having some talks with me. And I always she was like, she's still one of my best friends, and she was the first person that I told, and the second person that I told the same night was my best friend Courtney, who I've been best friends with for over 20 years. We share this tattoo. And the third person that I told that night was my best friend Stephanie. So I told 3 people all in one night. Um, and I instantly felt like I lost like 100 pounds. It was very freeing. And Shauna, Courtney, and Stephanie all were like so accepting of it. Courtney and Shauna both were like, "Hey, we knew. Like, thanks for finally being you." Um, what was the hardest reaction you received? The hardest reaction that I received was I really didn't receive any hard reactions. I know that's shocking, but everyone else knew me better than I knew myself. And so I really didn't receive any bad reactions from anybody, not anybody that I worked with, not any of my close friends or family. Um, what surprised you most during that season? Honestly, what surprised me most was the simple fact that the majority, I would say 99% of all the people that knew or that I told, that, "Hey, I'm coming out," they were like, "Hey, we're so glad you're finally getting to be you. This is your time." They were so happy for me. That really surprised me because everyone already knew. They were like, we're glad that you finally knew yourself because we've known for decades." And so that really surprised me. How has your coming out shaped the husband and father you are today? So it's definitely made me um, a much better father. Even when I was my previous life, I was very much the father and the mother um, in that part of my relationship too. Other than buying the pretty things, I did the cooking, I did the cleaning, I took care of the kids from birth. I mean, it was just me basically, um, and so it. I feel like I've always been a very strong father. I feel like being authentically me though is giving my kids the space to be who they want to be, um, and I love them for whoever they are or whatever they want to be, and so I think that has helped me. Um, yeah, and I just think it's made me a better person in general. Um, my life feels much easier the last 7 years than it felt the whole first 25 or however whatever that equals. But seriously, like it honestly feels so much lighter, so much easier. My day to day life feels easier. There's no stress at home. Um, my husband is good to me. He's good to my children. Um, it's honestly like they were with him their whole life. And Aurora pretty much has. I shouldn't say her name. My youngest child pretty much has been with him her whole life. I mean, she was like 4 when we moved in together. We actually had her 5th birthday in this house. So yeah, she was 4 when we moved in together. And so she really is all that he knows. And I'm super grateful for that. That she doesn't have to know any of the trauma because she doesn't remember any of it. And I'm very grateful for that. What do your kids know about your journey? So my oldest kid knows way more about my journey than my youngest kid because he was right there with me the whole time. Both of my children are very supportive. My youngest, it's all she knows, so she doesn't know any different. Um, and I'm grateful for that. But honestly, both of my kids are super supportive. They love both of us unconditionally. Um, they don't really get much beef about it. Surprisingly, every once in a while there'll be a shitty person, or a parent that doesn't want their kid to come over because we're gay or something like that. But for the most part, we don't get a lot of backlash. What does authenticity look like inside your home? We are just like everybody else, period. We go to bed every night, we get up every morning, we have supper together, um, we do all the same activities that straight people do. There is no different in this household than there is in all the other households in America. It literally looks the same as it does anywhere. It looks like it should. It looks like a family. What legacy are you trying to leave? So, you know, I I'm not necessarily trying to leave um a legacy, but I definitely want to leave my mark. I want people to um have memories of me that are funny or I made them feel good. I want my children to be like, wow, my father did X, Y, and Z. Um, or my father made these sacrifices for our family. Like I just want my children to be happy. Um, and I want them to always know that they were accepted. That's what I think is important. So it's not necessarily a legacy that I want to leave. It's more of um, I just want to leave my mark. I want to leave habits behind that will carry on. How did your story shape? Jerod said it. So I guess really and truly, Jerod said it gave me a platform to tell my story, to tell other stories, um, and just use it almost like a diary, as you will. Have you ever felt imposter syndrome telling your story publicly? No, not really. What part of your past fuels your drive today? So during my last part of my life, not this current part, um, I lived in like constant turmoil. Always, it was always about money, 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 um, and like what bills need to be paid, like what this, what that, what this, what that, because there was terrible spending habits. Um, it was just, it was constant turmoil all the time. It was always keeping up with the Joneses, the nicest house, the nicest cars, There was, a bankruptcy at one point because there were credit cards that I didn't know about. Like, it was just constant turmoil. And so that really drives me today to be like financially smart and financially secure. Um, like, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to make for dinner, or what bill am I going to pay this pay period, and what bill I'm going to pay that next pay period. Like, I finally got to a point in my life where I'm stable in all the things, and so the turbulentness from before led me to the stability that I have now. What message do you want listeners to hear when they hear your name? I want them to know that it's okay to be exactly who you want to be all the time. And there's no better time than to start than right now. So there are some rapid fire questions here too. One word to describe your coming out journey: dumpster fire. A song that feels like your freedom anthem: Slide Away by Miley Cyrus. Biggest misconception about you? Mm, biggest misconception about me is that I'm not a snob. Some people think I'm a snob, but I'm not a snob. If you weren't afraid, what would you do next? If I wasn't afraid, what would I do next? I would start another business, but I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to give someone else the idea. You guys know I can't go anywhere without some inbox confessionals, so I do have some here for you. Y'all, this was fun. I'm glad I got to talk about all this with you. And, always email me questions to my inbox if you have more things that you want to know. This will be one of my shorter episodes. And I'm literally holding the camera. It's not on a stand. I only have one ring light on. My eyelashes aren't even done. Here I am. This is me, just raw me. Confessional number 1. I'm married, but I still have a tiny crush on my gym trainer. I don't want to act on it. I just like the attention. Listen, admiration is free. Acting on it costs you your peace. Enjoy the view, drink your water, and go home to your spouse, sweetie. Don't trade a lifetime for a flexed bicep. Confessional number 2. My partner and I pretend we're in a reality show during arguments. It makes it less toxic and more dramatic. Honestly, that's emotional intelligence with a production budget. Just make sure someone wins the Emmy for growth. Confessional number 3. Sometimes I send flirty messages just to feel wanted, even if I plan to never meet up. Baby, attention is addictive, but ask yourself, are you feeding your ego or starving your integrity? Validation hits quick. Self-respect lasts a lot longer. Confessional number 4. My spouse and I scheduled intimacy on the calendar, and now it feels like a business meeting. Put it on the calendar and bring creativity to the conference room. Structure doesn't mean stable. Add music, add laughter. Adjourn with enthusiasm. I don't know. Confessional number 5. I act confident online, but I still feel like that scared kid inside. I can relate to that. That scared kid built this entire empire. Don't shame him. Thank him. Then remind him we're not hiding anymore, because he could be me one day. I'm successful on TikTok. I have a good podcast going, and I'm that scared kid. Look at me now. What are you still hiding that deserves daylight, y'all? Ask yourself that. What are you still hiding that deserves daylight? If nobody has told you today, you're worthy and living fully, loving boldly, and telling the truth out loud. Jerod said it. Don't you forget it.